Hi, I thought I'd do just a quick video for where the magnetic pole is or around abouts at this present time, according to the best efforts that I've got to my ability to make those calculations as for where it is. But before I do, I thought it'd be a good idea just to go over some of the recent information for those new subscribers to the channel, and just a recap for those that have been following the the progression with the topic that this channel is mainly concerned with, the magnetic pole shift. So as you can see, I'm pretty much central in the United Kingdom at around about 52 degrees longitude. So I'm probably about 4,500 miles away from the magnetic North Pole, and as you can see, if I just zoom in onto these markers, these little yellow markers that you can see, are GPS coordinates that was supplied by NOAA, and as you can see, there's quite a few of them. And it took a bit of time to put all those GPS coordinates over the years that NOAA had been measuring where the magnetic pole was and how it had been migrating. So if we just go from the 1900s, because that's really where the magnetic North Pole started to migrate in a single vector towards Siberia, we can see how far it's been moving during that period of time. So let me just turn it round so that we can fit in the 1900s measuring point. It's there. And if we get up the measuring tool so that we can see the heading and also how many miles it's been covering since that period in 30-year intervals up until the recent date, we can get an idea of where it is now and how fast it's been travelling over set periods of time. So if we start with the 1900s and just measure that off to the 1930s, a 30-year period, we can see that it has travelled roughly 98 miles. So if we measure from the 1930s to see, over a period of time, it has increased to the 1960s, which is here. We'll see that it's almost doubled. Its speed therefore covered twice the amount of distance since it began moving, since the 1900s to the 1930s. From the 1930s to the 1960s, it's doubled the distance it's actually covered in that same period of time of 30 years. So if we take another reading then from the 1960s to the 1990s, there we are, we can see that it's done 232 miles in that same 30-year period. So a slight increase over distance and time. And from the 1900s to the 1990 to 2012, we see something quite alarming that's took place. It has done actually 591 miles or thereabouts in that period of time. So how far then do you think it might have moved since 2012 to 2015? Well, according to my best measuring efforts, it has covered 463 miles in just 3 years. Now, I've always measured it from the same place in central England, right? So if you're measuring it from further towards the equator, those yearly periods become different with regards to 1 degree's measurements over a period of time. But just to recap, from the 1900s to the 1930s, it moved 98 miles. From 1930s to 1960s, it moved 199 miles. From the 1960s to the 1990s, it moved 207 miles. So just a little bit more than the previous 30 years. But things changed again in since 1990 to 2012, a large acceleration. So it covered more distance over a shorter period of time. So from 1990 to 2012, 611 miles or thereabouts, and from 2012 to 2015, another 455 miles. So it's really getting a move on. As time gets shorter, it's covering more distance. So the GPS coordinates for where I calculate the magnetic north pole to be are 84.54 degrees north by 135 degrees, 12 degrees east. So that's roughly, if you're looking on Google Earth, that if you want to put a pin mark in there, that's where it'll be around about this time. Now if I just back out, by the way, the 40 degrees mark, this is a total of 30, right, so since the 1900s to the present day, it's done 1,570 miles, and that's roughly about 34 degrees. Now I've always said 40 degrees is where we start to reach that point in time where things start to progress much quicker, because it is leaving the strong field lines and it's entering the weak field lines. And as we've seen from previous experiments that I've conducted, when it gets to the 40 degrees mark, things start to flip over. So I'm predicting that around about the 40 degrees mark is where we're going to start to see a pole shift occur, and occur more faster. So if I just back out, we get a rough idea as to where the magnetic north pole is. And I want you to just pay attention to this continent here, and in relationship to where that red line, where the current position is with regards to England. So it's going straight up to the east side of this continent, in between Greenland or Iceland. What is the name of that continent? Svalbard, is it? Probably making a mess of that, but there you go. So we're going to look on the swarm data to see where this line is, and in particular where the magnetic north pole is with relation to the swarm data, because something interesting in the position of where I've calculated the magnetic north pole to be, there's a significant with regards to the swarm data. So let's get that up so we can have a look at that. Let's just get this off. So we're just looking at the northern hemisphere of the swarm data. Now I said the magnetic north pole, if you've got a compass, the compass is actually pointing in between the fragmenting poles. Now they're both polarized north, and as you can see, that's that continent I mentioned there, and you can see that there is virtually in between the two poles, and it's slightly towards the right hand north pole on this chart, but you can see the line that was on Google Earth where I measured it was running virtually in between the two main plumes of magnetic field strength, if you want. That's it. That it almost confirms then where the pole is with relationship to those jet streams as well. If we look up on the temperature map, which I'll just pull up now. So here we are on the temperature chart, and if we was looking at the magnetic swarm data, we would see the two magnetic blooms both over the north left hemisphere and the right hemisphere on the map, and we would see in between, as we are seeing, like a peaked region of warmer weather. So as I've said before, I'm not going to keep repeating it, but where these plumes are going to be the regions where it's much colder, and that is because magnetic material favours cooler regions of the Earth, therefore increasing the magnetic ability of the material in strength, and where it's warmer it's going to be weaker. And what we can see in between the two magnetic plumes on swarm data is a weaker magnetic region in the centre, which runs parallel or vertical from England up past that continent that we pointed out on that other chart. And that rounds up the update for the magnetic pole and its relative position. Over the next month or so, just when we can get a few quid together, I'm going to be building 3 separate stations with three axes magnetometers in. And the reason for that is if there's a random uncertainty with one of them, it's unlikely that it's going to be in all 3 at the same time, so we can chart with the best accuracy of the the components where the magnetic north pole is. And if we have such things such as solar flares, we can see how they affect the magnetic pole or the magnetosphere. And if there is any changes in the core of the Earth with the magneto, we should be able to pick up those variations. What I'm doing at the moment is trying to source the most accurate and affordable magnetometer, and then build up a framework to attach it to a secure location on the outside of the property, so that we can monitor it over a 24-hour period, over a weekly period and a monthly period, and we can run it on some graphs and we can see where all 3 of them deviate, and we can try and work out what it was that caused those deviations on the actual location of the magnetic pole. Whether it was solar flares, changes to the interior core. We can try our best just to work it out, but more importantly is just to keep a track on where it is, how fast it's migrating now across towards Siberia. And if you want to help contribute towards some of the costs of those electronics, then the link's always down there, guys. I've got the time, I've got limited money, but I couldn't be any more keener on the topic than where I am. So maybe if you want to do your little bit, there's a link down there. Chip in, we'll get this equipment built and we can start monitoring it. It's that simple. Okay guys, as always, you keep safe, try not to worry about it too much. I'm sure the sun's going to come up tomorrow and it will set on the evening. And as always guys, I'm going to say what I usually do. Bye for now.